Ladies and gentlemen, the most dangerous mistake in life is not always the loud one. It is not always the mistake that breaks a door, shatters glass, or leaves a wound that everyone can see. Sometimes the most dangerous mistake enters quietly, smiles with confidence, says exactly what you want to hear, and takes a seat in your heart, as if it has always belonged there. Sometimes the wrong person arrives looking like the answer, while the right person arrives looking like a challenge you are not ready to face. Because the human heart is often afraid of truth, but easily attracted to illusion, it reaches for what feels exciting instead of what is truly good. And without realizing it, it begins walking away from the very future it was meant to have. There are moments when we do not simply choose a person. We choose a pattern that has followed us for years. We choose an old pain that feels strangely familiar. We choose comfort instead of wisdom. We choose what we already understand, instead of what could change our lives forever. Then one day the excitement fades. The silence grows louder. Reality finally speaks. And hidden deep inside the heart comes a painful realization. They chose the wrong person. And by choosing the wrong one, they let the right one slip away. Stay with this thought, because what comes next may completely change how you see every relationship you have ever had. This is not only a story about love. It is a story about awareness. It is a story about blindness slowly becoming clear vision. It is about the quiet battle inside every person, where one part wants comfort, while another longs for truth. People do not suffer only because someone hurts them. Many times they suffer because they ignore themselves. They silence the small inner voice that gently whispers, "This is not right for you." They push away their own instincts, because those instincts do not promise quick happiness. They trade patience for excitement. They mistake emotional intensity for genuine closeness. They confuse constant attention with lasting care. They believe strong feelings must always mean deep love. But the heart knows better than the mind admits. Deep inside it recognizes who is only passing through and who has truly arrived. It knows when someone reflects your loneliness instead of your future. It knows the difference between someone who admires you from a distance and someone who truly understands your soul. That difference changes everything. One leaves you entertained for a season. The other helps you become a stronger version of yourself. Keep listening carefully, because this next truth explains why so many people repeat the same painful story again and again. Many people spend years beside the wrong person because that person quietly confirms the fears they already carry inside. They already feel invisible. They already question their worth. They already fear being left behind. Then someone appears at the perfect moment. Charming, confident, warm, available. Everything seems to fit together. They mistake being rescued for being loved, but rescue is not love. Needing someone is not love. Depending on another person to feel complete is not love either. Wanting to be chosen is very different from learning how to choose wisely. This is why the heart becomes most fragile when life feels empty. A lonely man may mistake attention for lifelong devotion. A tired woman may mistake pursuit for true commitment. A wounded person may believe powerful emotions are proof that they have finally found the right one. Yet powerful emotions can either light your path or burn everything you hope to build. A heart that has never learned to know itself is easily attracted to the brightest light, without asking whether that light will guide or destroy it. Don't click away now, because the next part reveals why the best people are often overlooked. The deeper question is this: why do people make the wrong choice even when the right person is standing quietly in front of them? The answer is surprisingly simple. The right person usually asks you to grow. The wrong person asks you to escape. The right person invites honesty. The wrong person feeds fantasy. The right person wants the real you, including your fears, your flaws, and your truth. The wrong person is happy with the version of you that hides behind masks. The right person does not make empty promises just to keep you close. The wrong person flatters every insecurity until it feels like destiny. There is a huge difference between what excites the ego and what strengthens the heart. One loves drama because drama feels important. The other loves truth because truth builds lasting peace. One whispers, "Choose the person who makes you feel wanted." The other quietly reminds you, "Choose the person who helps you become your true self." One says, "Hold tightly before they leave." The other says, "Grow into someone who can love without fear." Think about that for a moment, because the final truth may stay with you long after this message ends. Many lives are damaged not because love is impossible, but because wisdom is ignored. People rarely fall apart from being alone. More often they fall apart because they remain connected to someone who was never safe for their heart. They keep loving an image long after reality has exposed the truth. They defend the wrong person because admitting the truth would mean letting go of the dream they created, and letting go hurts. It forces the heart to accept that what it hoped for never truly existed. But grief, painful as it feels, has a purpose. It clears away illusion. It opens space for truth to enter. Sometimes losing the wrong person is the first step toward finding yourself. And when the right person is lost, the pain reaches much deeper than a broken relationship. It becomes the loss of a rare chance to grow through genuine connection. Yet even then, hope remains. Every honest lesson prepares you for wiser choices. Every painful ending teaches clearer vision. The future is not decided by yesterday's mistake. It is shaped by what you finally choose after seeing the truth. And perhaps the greatest victory in life is not finding the perfect person. Perhaps it is becoming the kind of person who can finally recognize real love when it quietly arrives. The right person offers much more than simple company. They become a mirror that helps you understand yourself in ways you never expected. They do not only attract your mind or touch your emotions for a short moment. They reach the quiet places inside you that have been waiting for someone to truly notice them. Losing a person like that is about much more than losing a relationship. It can mean losing a possible future, a chance to heal, and a version of yourself that might have grown through real love and honest connection. But before we blame someone for choosing the wrong person, we must first understand something deeper about human nature. People are rarely guided by logic alone. Old memories influence them. Past experiences shape them. Unfinished emotional pain quietly pushes them toward familiar patterns without them even realizing it. Someone may truly believe they want peace, yet deep inside they are drawn toward conflict because conflict feels normal. Another person may say they want kindness, but kindness feels strange because they rarely experienced it when they needed it most. So instead of choosing what brings healing, they choose what reminds them of old pain. That is why the same story repeats itself again and again. Stay with me, because the next truth explains why so many intelligent people still fall into the same emotional trap. There is a hidden side inside every person that they do not fully understand. It is not always dark or evil. More often it is simply the part they have ignored, denied, or hidden from themselves. In relationships, this hidden side becomes especially powerful because it quietly shapes the way we see others. We believe we are falling in love with another person, but sometimes we are only falling in love with the picture we created in our own mind. We imagine someone will rescue us, complete us, prove our worth, remove our loneliness, or finally give our life the meaning we have been searching for. We place impossible expectations on ordinary human beings. But dreams built on imagination cannot survive forever. Sooner or later, reality arrives. The person begins showing who they really are instead of who we hoped they would become. And suddenly the heart breaks. Not because truth destroyed love, but because illusion finally disappeared. Many people later say, "I never knew who they really were." Yet in many cases the warning signs were always there. They noticed them. They simply looked away. Don't leave now, because the next part may completely change the way you judge every relationship in your past. People often see enough to recognize the truth, but they convince themselves to ignore it. They excuse behavior that should never have been accepted. They explain away emotional distance. They make excuses for broken promises. They turn instability into excitement. They mistake manipulation for passion. They call neglect personal space. They describe selfishness as independence. They rename secrecy as privacy. They even convince themselves that emotional immaturity is simply unrealized potential waiting to grow. Every excuse makes the illusion stronger, while reality quietly fades into the background. During all this time, the right person may still be nearby, calm, honest, steady, kind. Yet they are overlooked because steady love rarely creates fireworks. Real love usually enters quietly. It does not demand attention. It earns trust one moment at a time. It builds instead of rushing. It listens instead of performing. It remains present, even when there is nothing exciting happening. Think carefully about that, because many people spend years chasing emotional highs while walking straight past the person who could have brought them lasting peace. One of the greatest mistakes in modern life is that people admire what looks impressive while ignoring what is truly dependable. We have become skilled at trusting appearances while doubting quiet honesty. Loud confidence often receives more attention than quiet character. We become fascinated by people who create emotional storms but fail to notice those who know how to build a safe place where peace can grow. Yet lasting love has never been measured by excitement alone. Real love is revealed in ordinary moments. It is shown by someone who remains truthful when lying would be easier, someone who stays gentle when anger would bring quick satisfaction, someone who remains loyal even when temptation appears. The wrong person often shines brightest on the emotional stage. They know exactly how to make you feel important for a moment. They understand how to create excitement, mystery, and emotional highs that leave you wanting more. But moments fade, performances end, masks eventually fall away. Character remains. And in the end, the person who quietly brings honesty, stability, patience and peace will always give you something far more valuable than temporary excitement. The greatest love story is rarely the loudest one. It is the one that quietly changes who you become long after the first feelings have settled. And that is the kind of love truly worth waiting for. The wrong person often knows exactly how to become unforgettable. They arrive with big promises, powerful emotions, and words that make every meeting feel like fate itself. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels larger than life. But real destiny is not always loud. Sometimes it speaks in a quiet voice. Sometimes it arrives with patience instead of pressure. Sometimes it does not fight for attention, because it already carries something real. The right person may not immediately impress your ego, or create the emotional rush that a wounded heart has learned to crave. Instead, they may seem calm, honest, steady, and surprisingly consistent. And for someone who has spent years living inside confusion, consistency can feel unfamiliar. Safety can feel strange. A peaceful relationship may even seem boring, because the heart has confused anxiety with excitement for so long. That is why many people walk away from the very relationship that could have helped them heal. They say it lacks excitement. They say it moves too slowly. They say it feels too ordinary. Yet what they call ordinary is often where lasting love quietly grows. Don't stop here, because the next truth explains why genuine love is often mistaken for something less valuable than emotional chaos. The right person never needs to prove their value through games or confusion. They do not create mystery simply to hold your attention. They do not disappear just to make you chase them. They do not withhold affection to increase their importance. They are comfortable with honesty because they have nothing to hide. Their words and actions move together instead of in opposite directions. When they make a promise, they work hard to keep it. When disagreements happen, they protect your dignity instead of attacking your character. When they love you, they never try to own you. The wrong person follows a completely different path. They surround you with uncertainty and call it chemistry. They become emotionally distant and call it depth. They ignore your pain and describe it as strength. They leave you waiting without answers and call it being busy. They damage your trust and claim they are simply being honest. Slowly they make you question your own feelings until confusion begins to look like love. That is how emotional traps are built. They do not happen overnight. They grow one excuse at a time. Keep listening carefully, because the next part reveals how people slowly lose themselves without even noticing it. Almost no one loses the right person in a single moment. It usually happens through many small choices that seem harmless at first. A warning sign is ignored. A personal boundary becomes weaker. A painful truth is delayed. An uneasy feeling is explained away. Deep inside, the heart keeps whispering that something is wrong, yet the mind keeps inventing reasons to stay. After enough time, the unhealthy relationship becomes part of your identity. You defend it because leaving feels like losing a piece of yourself. The thought of walking away becomes more frightening than the pain of staying. Yet the price of remaining in the wrong place is often much greater than the fear of starting over. Little by little, you stop recognizing yourself. You stop speaking freely. You stop trusting your own instincts. You slowly disappear inside a life that no longer reflects who you really are. Think about that for a moment. The greatest loss is not always losing another person. Sometimes the greatest loss is losing yourself while trying to hold on to someone who was never truly holding on to you. There is a powerful truth that many people never notice. They are not always drawn to the wrong person because that person is better. They are often drawn to them because they feel familiar. Familiar pain can seem safer than unfamiliar peace. Familiar disappointment can feel easier than accepting the responsibility that healthy love requires. Familiar control can seem more comfortable than equal partnership. But the right person asks for something very different. They invite honesty instead of pretending. They ask you to be present instead of hiding behind old wounds. They encourage accountability instead of excuses. They quietly ask a question many people avoid. Not simply, do you love me? But are you becoming someone who truly knows how to love? That question reaches much deeper than romance. It challenges your character. It asks whether you are growing or only repeating old patterns. It asks whether you expect another person to complete you, or whether you are willing to become whole within yourself first. Stay with this until the end, because the final truth may completely change the way you see every relationship from this day forward. Healthy love cannot grow where impossible expectations are planted. No partner can carry the weight of healing every wound another person refuses to face. Yet many wounded hearts unknowingly expect exactly that. They search for a parent inside a partner. They look for a rescuer instead of an equal. They expect another person to repair years of pain that only honest self-reflection can truly heal. When those impossible hopes are not fulfilled, disappointment quickly turns into blame. The other person becomes responsible for a hurt they never created. But the deeper problem has always been inside. The wound remained ignored. It remained hidden behind distractions instead of being understood with honesty. A healthy soul does not grow by constantly begging to be chosen. It grows by learning its own value first. Everything changes when a person stops asking, "Who will finally choose me?" and starts asking, "Who am I becoming each day?" There is a powerful connection between character and the choices we make. We do not simply meet what we want. We repeatedly accept what our inner life believes it deserves. A person with weak boundaries often attracts those who ignore them. A person without self-respect often attracts those who constantly test it. And when your inner world changes, the people you welcome into your life begin to change as well. The person who has no clear direction often attracts confusion. The person who is afraid of being alone may attract those who take advantage of that fear. But the person who truly understands themselves begins making different choices. They stop confusing desire with wisdom. They stop mistaking excitement for purpose. They stop waiting for someone to rescue them and begin learning how to stand on their own. Standing alone is not always easy. In fact, it can feel uncomfortable at first. It is much easier to fall into someone else's arms and call it fate. It is much easier to trade careful judgment for quick attention. It is much easier to choose the person who offers instant validation than the one who quietly encourages you to grow. Yet the easiest choices often become the most expensive lessons. What arrives quickly can disappear just as fast. What is chosen from emptiness often leaves an even deeper emptiness behind. The right person is different. They may not erase every fear or fill every empty space inside you, but they will never feed those empty places with false promises. They will never build your future on beautiful words alone. Their actions will always carry more weight than their speeches. Stay with me, because the next truth explains why genuine love often feels less exciting at first, but becomes far more valuable over time. The right person sees more than your appearance. They do not fall in love with a carefully edited version of you. They are not interested only in your strengths while pretending your struggles do not exist. Instead, they are willing to meet every part of your story. Your fears, your doubts, your moments of weakness, your quiet courage, your past mistakes, your hopes that are still unfinished. Because they never demand perfection, they create a place where honesty becomes possible. And that can feel uncomfortable for people who have spent years hiding behind masks. If you have always believed you must perform to be accepted, then being truly seen may feel frightening instead of freeing. But pretending can never create lasting love. A mask may receive admiration for a while, but it can never experience real connection. Eventually the performance becomes exhausting. Eventually the truth wants to breathe. The strongest relationships are never built on perfect images. They are built on the courage to be known exactly as you are. Think about that for a moment, because this next part explains why so many relationships feel empty, even when they seem perfect from the outside. Modern life often rewards appearance more than authenticity. People become experts at looking desirable instead of becoming deeply trustworthy. They carefully shape every image, every conversation, every impression, hoping to be admired. They become very good at being noticed but never truly known. Then they wonder why their relationships feel shallow. The answer is simple. Real closeness cannot grow where everything is carefully performed. Trust cannot become strong when every interaction feels like a competition for approval. Lasting love cannot grow if both people are constantly trying to impress instead of connect. The right person does not ask you to compete for affection. They simply invite you to arrive as your real self, and arriving is one of the bravest things a person can do. It means letting go of constant pretending. It means no longer dividing yourself into different versions for different people. It means bringing your truth, even if your truth is still growing, still healing, and still imperfect. Don't click away now, because the next lesson may completely change how you understand every heartbreak you have ever experienced. Many people fear this kind of honesty, because honesty brings responsibility. The wrong person often allows fantasy to continue, because fantasy is easy. Reality asks much more from us. It asks us to look honestly at the other person, but also at ourselves. It asks a difficult question. What inside me was attracted to this situation? That question can be painful, because it reveals the part of us that quietly helped keep our own suffering alive. Yet it is also deeply freeing, because it gives our power back. We stop believing that life only happens to us. We begin realizing that our choices shape our future. This is one of the greatest lessons hidden inside every painful ending. Not every heartbreak is meaningless. Sometimes heartbreak removes the illusions we refuse to release. It reveals unhealthy attachment. It exposes emotional habits that no longer serve us. It shows where we depended too much on approval, where we feared being abandoned, where we confused passion with possession, and where we believed another person could complete what only personal growth could heal. Pain does not always destroy us. Sometimes it becomes the beginning of wisdom. Some people lose the right person and spend the rest of their lives believing only that life treated them unfairly. They say they were unlucky. They say they were betrayed. They believe they never received a real opportunity. Sometimes those feelings are understandable. But there is another truth that is much harder to accept. Many opportunities arrive quietly, and we fail to recognize them because they do not match the picture our ego created. The right person may not have been dramatic enough. They may not have created enough excitement. They may not have seemed mysterious enough or constantly praised us the way we secretly wanted. One part of us wanted fireworks. Another part longed for steady peace. One wanted a thrilling story. The other wanted lasting truth. Too often excitement wins the first decision, while wisdom arrives much later. That is when regret appears. But regret alone does not create growth. Regret simply remembers what happened. Wisdom takes that memory and accepts responsibility for it. It is easy to say, I lost the right person. It is much harder to ask, what inside me could not recognize the right person when they stood before me? The moment you ask that question with complete honesty, everything begins to change. That is where real transformation quietly begins. Everything begins to change. The moment we stop making life fate, or the universe the enemy, and start taking responsibility for our own growth. This is not about blaming yourself. It is about becoming free. As long as we believe every problem was created by destiny, we remain stuck waiting for someone else to fix our future. But when we begin to understand our repeated patterns, we finally gain the power to change them. Once we notice the hidden habits guiding our choices, we no longer have to repeat them. Once we realize we have been attracted to what feels familiar instead of what is truly healthy, we can begin making wiser decisions. The wrong person may have been attractive, confident, intelligent, or deeply fascinating, but appearance without character cannot last. Charm without honesty becomes a tool for control. Intelligence without kindness can easily become manipulation. Energy without integrity is simply movement without purpose. Still, the human heart often mistakes these qualities for lasting love, because it longs to be carried away by emotion. It wants excitement. It wants a dramatic story. It wants proof that life is intense. But stay with me, because the next truth may completely change the way you define love itself.